Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to your home for Deadlock News, Deadlock Weekly. And let's just get into it, guys. We've got some big stuff to hit this week. And the first thing on our list is the balance patch. And funny enough, this actually came in the middle of the North American matches in Night Shift this week, so it was a little bit of a shake-up mid-tournament there. But ultimately, it was so quick that it was kind of tough to see how that actually impacted the game. But the first biggest thing that everybody notices immediately is that now when you get shot, you're slowed by 10%. I'm still not really sure how I feel about this. There are a lot of changes that sometimes get made to this game where I'm like, oh, I don't know why they're deciding to make this change now. It wasn't a problem that I felt like just people in general were getting away. But I think that one thing is very clear, that when you take this into account with like the movement nerfs and things like that have come recently, which I guess actually this is just another movement nerf kind of, is they want you to make intentional decisions and place yourself intentionally on the map. Or at least that's my opinion on it. One thing that does make me very sad, and it makes probably 90% of you very happy, is that Infernus did finally get a much needed nerf to Afterburn. And I think this is probably the end of Infernus on the channel for now, because I could barely fucking spin him up, even with how overpowered he was back recently. But I really do love how they've emphasized the importance of headshots. I think that's a really, really creative way to balance a gun focus. And before you go to the comments, I know he's not actually gun focused, but you need to proc Afterburn with his gun. So I think it's a very creative way to balance around that. There aren't many heroes. I don't think there's anybody who has, like, obviously, you know, you get bonus headshot damage on heroes like Vindicta, right, for your snipe, or like just in general. There aren't a ton of heroes that I can think of that are so incentivized to get headshots. Now, like Infernus is. Also, I apologize, guys, with the new release time. I'm also recording at a little bit of a different time, so my roommates are walking around upstairs right now, so I apologize if you do hear a little bit of background footsteps. And then, guys, the changes to neutrals, this kind of weaves into a little bit of what I was talking about at the start. They're a little bit harder to take in general, so it really seems like they just want you to be intentional with your decisions, or at least be punished more for making the wrong decision, which, as I understand it, it seems like that's a pretty common theme throughout the MOBA genre. Then, guys, moving on from the balance patch, we did actually get an update on the major update. I need to find a better phrasing for that. Yoshi did say now he had recently said that they were still planning on December, and now they've said they're still hoping for December, but it's going to be close and it could come out in January. And even if it does still come out in December, it'll be closer to New Year's than not, so I'll obviously keep you in the loop on whenever Yoshi hits us up with another message. I just really appreciate being kept in the loop on this stuff by Valve. And then, guys, we did get a couple of other leaks this week, mainly just pictures of Fencer and Venator, and Venator looks fantastic, guys. I just adore his design, like the wooden stakes for, I assume, vampire hunting, and just, he is gonna be peak, guys. He's already peak. I mean, look at him. And then Fencer, I know that Connor at Dead Unlocked has been saying that he looks a lot like him, and it is true, but he looks like Jack Doherty. Not Connor. Connor doesn't look like Jack Doherty. Fencer looks like Jack Doherty. And Connor, you don't want to look like Jack Doherty. But I think he's going to have some really cool characterization as well. It seems like he's going to be a little bit of a preppy douchebag, and since that he's a tank, you're going to do a lot of punching him in the face, so I think that's a fun little aspect of his character as well. And guys, moving on to Winrates Weekly, our poll results are in, and you guys have confirmed it. Ascendant Plus is our new Winrates Weekly high rank bracket, I guess. You guys just keep moving that poll as far away from me as you can get it. One day I'll get into that. But for now, I'm just in all ranks with everybody else. But yeah, guys, Victor is honestly the really shocking one to me. A shocking reanimation, anybody? Oh, okay. Because not much about him has really changed. If I had to guess, I imagine this is a case of just one of the untouched heroes in the balance patch gets a big ol' boost, just by nature of being one of the untouched ones. And, you know, like one thing that we've talked about here before when Victor's win rate is really high is that, you know, the character is just kind of strong by default. He has a second life ability. He's got probably the best healing ability in the game. Obviously, you can't give it to, like, someone else, but for himself, right? Probably the best healing ability in the game. I mean, it's a goddamn debuff remover. And so, yeah, Victor is back on top, but yeah, still not really that big of a change because this is only still a couple of days from our most recent balance patch, and things have just been changing so frequently. They've been patching this game so frequently as compared to how they normally do it. I really think they're trying to button things up before this next major update because they know that it's going to be probably the biggest update we've ever had and throw a giant wrench into everything we know about this game thus far. But back to the win rates, Kelvin and Calico. Bye-bye, guys. Kelvin, you never really... Kelvin doesn't really always really have that great of a win rate anyways, but we just... goodbye. We know that you're leaving now, actually, for real, because you got nerfed into oblivion. And then Calico, her win rate was actually much higher. Her win rate goes up and down depending on how strong she actually is in the meta, whereas heroes like Shiv, Kelvin, usually a little bit more stagnant, but Kelvin we have actually seen get a little bit of a drop since his ult and really... gun got gutted. And then, guys, we do really have some not great news to talk about this week in the esports world, and it's a very adult topic, so I trust that you're going to be able to be an adult, be respectful, and if your comment to this is, I love ABL because he says blank, save yourself the time because I'm just going to ban you. And so, should ABL, if you don't know, he is one of Deadlock's most talented players, be banned for reasons we're going to talk about in a second. And banned meaning from at least Night Shift, but theoretically just, you know, any tournament. And so why is this? We're going to start from the very top, going back a few months ago, if you don't know. And it's this clip from Metro's stream where things started.
Yo, that's newbie.
Shut up.
Yo, what? What the fuck?
And so obviously ABL was the one who said that, and to my knowledge, he doesn't make any content or really have any public image, just certainly not in the English-speaking community. And so in the English-speaking community, he's obviously gained a reputation from this clip. And ever since then, and much, much more so recently, people have been spamming racist down in chat for Night Shift whenever ABL dies. And after months of that now, last night, this happened.
Chat, I love the fact that we have over 1,900 people watching us on Twitch. We have even more hanging out over on YouTube. What I hate, though, is the fact you're hyper-focusing on one man's comments from many months ago. There are 12 players on the screen. There is a brand new meta. Can we stop talking about how immature ABL was? We'll send him a strongly worded letter. You can personally write to his manager, but keep it out of the chat. Let's just talk about the game from now on, because you got 2 fantastic casters and 2 more games. That's right. Boom. All right, Chad, that was your last warning. The ban hammer's coming out. Fuck off. We don't need all the haters. We want the winners, and they're staying to the other side of the commercial break because we got game number 2. Jake's going to tell you why game 3 is coming. It starts with the draft. It's all fun and games here on the Night Shift. Quit being political, you douchebags. ABL, grow up. Stop. Welcome back to the Night Shift, everybody. I've been told by production that discussing whether or not racism is bad is good for engagements and helps with our sponsorships. If you're like us and agree that racism is bad, let's move on with the show as we get into game number 2. We got Jake.
And so this is one of those moments where you're like, did that seriously just happen? Like, it's like watching a news reporter mess up or something, and then you're looking at chat to confirm it because it almost doesn't seem real with how stupid of a chain of statements that was. Just one after another, straight up boneheaded. Racism is a horrendous scourge, and ABL saying the N-word is worthy of criticism and significant consequence. And for some reason, it took Puckett a while to get something similar past his lips, and despite how much I love Night Shift, it's incredibly difficult to give him much leeway when you hit the classic uncle at Thanksgiving, stop being political voice line. The more I write this, the more I'm just kind of completely baffled that he even thought to run down this train of thought of just joking about this in the first place instead of just addressing it in a serious manner. And I mean, you can see ZP's face when they come back from break and Puckett tries to joke about it again, he just drops his head. And guys, trust me, I know already, if you talk long enough into a microphone, you will say something you didn't mean or will regret instantly. And it's very easy for me to criticize from behind a recording that I'm going to get the opportunity to cut and slice every frame down to exactly how I want it. But when you get an opportunity like Puckett has, you bear the responsibility to essentially not fuck up. And the big fuck up last night was that telling a sizable portion of your audience that wants to see someone who uses racial slurs punished, that person in question essentially is A, not going to be punished, and B, you're going to be punishing people in chat by banning them for bringing it up. And so that is going to set off a ton of fucking people, man, because then you make it seem like you, and if you're banning people, you definitely are, by the way, protecting the guy who said something so hateful and toxic that Metro muted him. And then just piggybacking on that fuck up, a bunch of people took the opportunity to point out in forums and other discussions that he just doesn't know anything about the game, and I co-opt that. As someone who watches almost every week, like, he seriously doesn't know what the heroes do or what their abilities are, which I won't lie, I find more frustrating than entertaining. And so there was some serious fumbling that happened on the broadcast last night by Puckett. And so a lot of people were asking why he's even involved in the first place. But I want to make it clear through this. I love, and I'm going to continue to cover Night Shift on here because I know it is much bigger and there are a lot more people involved in Puckett's dumb 15 seconds. or minute or whatever that we watched, but you don't get to make a statement as dumb as that and not have me talk about it. And since he lists himself as a co-owner, I assume he has some sort of a significant equatorial stake in the company, and part of his role is being a desk host, which is why he's there. He doesn't really give any analysis, other than asking from like the perspective of somebody who doesn't know what's going on. But when he is just that host and he's bouncing back and forth with the analysts, having a good time, I do think he is very good. But just why he doesn't want to learn anything about Deadlock, I have no clue. I hope that that's a bit that's just over now. But one thing that isn't over now is the community reaction. The clip of this is going to be one of, if not the top post on Reddit this week, and I've seen it being talked about in almost every Deadlock Discord server that I'm in. And Night Shift, for a long time, could stick their head in the sand on this ABL stuff, and now Puckett's undeniably tied them together. Night Shift has made it clear that ABL's actions don't matter to them for their purposes in Night Shift until they come out and say or prove otherwise. And if they do make some type of statement, I'll pin in the comments and in the description, but considering now it's been over 24 hours, I wouldn't get your hopes up that that's what you're, if that's what you're looking for. And, you know, going back, they could have pinned this solely on ABL, and they could have said, you know, we're not going to act on something that happened outside of a tournament, or whatever other PR statement that they can come up with and force ABL to take responsibility for this on his own. But they kicked the can down the road so long in a hope that it would eventually just blow over, I assume, because they've just never mentioned it until last night, that they forgot the can they were kicking down the road. It's actually a pipe bomb, and it blew up in Puckett's face last night. So why were they kicking the can down the road? That brings us to the question from the title of this video. Essentially, Night Shift is in between a rock and a hard place with ABL. And so, up front, should ABL be banned? I think it would be totally appropriate for ABL to receive at least a temporary ban, and I wouldn't be upset if you were temporarily banned. But 3 letters, what a word. There are a few factors that are both tying Night Shift's hands and working in ABL's favor, so I don't think he's going to get banned. Unless this becomes even bigger than it is now, which I don't foresee it. So, why are they in a tough spot? Number one, ABL is one of the best players in the world on the best team in the world. If Night Shift banned ABL, I would honestly be really surprised if the team accepts that ban and continues to play in Night Shift as Abrahams, at least until ABL comes back. You know, keep in mind, Dimov left Buff Enjoyers like less than a month ago because he wanted to play with ABL. His teammates are probably not bothered by his use of the N-word. So it wouldn't surprise me if Abrahams went on break or didn't play in Night Shift until ABL returns. Most teams exist mainly because Night Shift does, and Night Shift is there to play against the best players in the world and pay you if you win. And so there's almost nothing to play for other than enjoyment and personal improvement at that rate. And I'm sure a huge reason that Night Shift hasn't addressed this is because they don't want to throw a bomb into the best team in the world, which would give an effect that would ripple out to every team and shatter the incredibly delicate scene they're working to build up. And then guys, it happened months ago, and this one I actually do kind of understand, because once you acknowledge that this happened and don't punish him, going back now, it's wishy-washy in terms of intention at best, and then it opens the door to a slippery slope of punishing people for anything in their past and not just the most egregious examples like we have here. So I do kind of see that argument. Then the other thing that I've seen people say is that ABL's only 21 and from Kazakhstan, which I don't think is an excuse. He knows what he's doing. I think standards should be applied universally, and I certainly don't know or care to learn any slurs in Russian. What the fuck is he doing learning them in English? He's doing it so he can call you that and make you mad. And so that's kind of where we stand with ABL and Night Shift, guys. I think a pretty embarrassing and disappointing moment that we had there, prefaced by a pretty disgusting one by one of the bigger players in the scene. Hopefully we see some reconciliation from the Night Shift crew saying that that was a pretty boneheaded way to approach discussing that problem, and hopefully we can all move forward and continue to enjoy the great product that Night Shift is, which is what we're going to do moving forward on here. And in Europe, it's not surprising. Abrahams won 2-0, and at least it was closer this week, but not by much. And while map 2 looked tenable for Leviathan, eventually the soul count on Mina became too much. 60,000 souls in 32 minutes. That's properly fucking nuts. And then in North America, the melee creeps won 2-1. And BWC actually made it much closer this time. North America, it is actually a series that's, I don't want to say worth watching, because I think Europe obviously is still worth watching because they've probably got ultimately the better team, but it's actually competitive in North America. But John on the Gundoorman build, yes, you heard that right. Apparently it is not dead. Absolutely annihilated BWC on map 1. There was a fight in the hallway by the Rejuvenator where John just melted the entire team, it felt like, and then some crazy damage on map 3 by Ido and DMB helped clear the melee creeps. path for a victory yet again this week. Then guys, even going before the money match, Sneaky Golem even still made it close with BWC. It was really back and forth game until like 35 minutes, which is a crazy thing to say even just like a week ago in a pro match, or maybe 2. And I do wonder if Sneaky Golem's days are numbered. This core has a long history of swapping out players when the team underperforms, and now it's been a month since they were even in a money match and 2 months since this core's won. But one reason they're definitely going to stay together at least until next week is that Deathy's second North American Death Slam Invitational is going on starting this weekend, so the link will be down below for you to watch that. Then guys, let's talk some Deadlock. We break into our comments section. We got our first one from Cardiac here, who said, "We have Yumi and Undying in Deadlock now. Seems like the roster is getting more diverse." And I don't comment on League of Legends characters, but I do agree the diversity of the roster I find incredibly interesting, and that's the real thing that I want to focus on, because it's incredibly refreshing and a testament to the setting that the Valve's chosen to develop Deadlock in. I think the best example of this is Doorman, where it's a completely unassuming, normal occupation that fits perfectly into your game if it just takes place in regular old New York City in, I don't know, fucking 1940 or whatever fucking year it is. And then you add the whole Maelstrom aspect to it, and you get characters like Abrams, Lady Geist, that have weird magical abilities from different planets, and it further amplifies then Doorman's character to be so much more that meets the eye. Ambiguous god, demigod type figure. And that's what grabs people and attaches them to characters, when they feel like real entities that have things that you can learn about them, and they have motivations that help them interact with the world around them, which Valve has just done a stellar job of building a lively world with characters that are worth investing time to learn about. Then guys, our next one comes from Oops All Ghost. I think Graves' skill ceiling is probably going to depend very heavily on how the ghouls actually work. Neither abilities mention the ghouls exploding upon reaching their target, so you might have to wait for them to time out for them to explode naturally, or for someone to actually accidentally shoot them when they're too close to your target. That might actually make the two an effective way to zone. If someone casts an AoE damage ability when the shambling ghoul is up, they might accidentally detonate it, stunning and damaging themselves or their ally. But I suspect that your placement of the ghouls is going to be where the skill ceiling comes from. Someone, I think either Hesy or Minesweeper, also I can't verify this by the way, I didn't actually look this part up, I don't know, this is all, thinking here. Back to the comment. They also mentioned that his wall is going to be very debuff oriented, similar to Paradox, but with roots. Given Graves' other ability is an AoE bomb, again, like Paradox, I suspect careful use of those to immobilize targets that your ghoul can do the work, and that will be her core loop, which does sound more challenging to pull off. And I think this makes much more sense. If you guys recall last week reading off of Graves' abilities, I said it doesn't really seem like she's going to be that high skill ceiling if she just is walking ghouls towards you that do damage. But them functioning more like a Doorman bell that can be set off manually, or you need another part of her kit to make it go off, that makes much more sense as to why she would be such a high skill ceiling character. And I could keep talking about how else it may be a high skill ceiling, but I'd be retreading your ground, honestly. I thought that was a great comment, and honestly, I'm tired after all that ABL talk. And so guys, that's all I got for you this time. I want to thank you so much to our executive producers Sky and Average Sigma for bringing you this episode, and all of our soul collectors over on Patreon. And so yeah guys, that's all I got for you this time. I hope you all have a fantastic weekend. Not the week anymore. I hope you all have a great weekend and get to enjoy some time and get some Deadlock games in. So guys, if you want to stay connected throughout the week, make sure to join up on Discord, follow on Twitter, and I'll see you again next weekend. Peace.